If you're just tuning in, this is World Insight. Welcome back. Water fights and neon-coloured water guns are standard features on Bangkok streets at this time of the year. It's, of course, the new year when Thais douse each other playfully during the Songkran Water Festival. But this year, a gun of a very different kind was on the streets, M16 automatic rifles, and in the hands of the country's soldiers.
Songkran, the traditional Thai New Year. A day after anti-government protests ended, people are out on the streets of Bangkok again. A holiday mood has finally returned. But not everyone is celebrating.
It's a shame. As a tourist, I want to see lots of places, but because of the crisis, they are closed.
As happy as this playful scene seems, the presence of soldiers is a reminder of the state of emergency. Violence broke out last Sunday when the army moved into the capital. It pitted security forces against red-shirted protesters. 2 people died and more than 100 were injured. The crisis came to a head when red shirts flooded the venue of a Southeast Asian summit a week ago Saturday and forced the meeting's cancellation. 3 days later, anti-government protesters left Government House peacefully after troops and police surrounded the area. But few believe peace will last.
I feel relieved and better, but I'm not confident because it looks like it's not completely over.
And it didn't take long for the situation to change. On Friday, Sonthi Limthangkol was shot and wounded in an assassination attempt. He is the founder of Thailand's Yellow Shirt movement that shut down Bangkok's airports last year.
Well, we are concerned by the shooting, obviously. We want to restore order, and we will do what we can to make sure that we can resolve this.
3 years of intractable political conflict are taking a debilitating toll on Thailand. Yellow and red demarcate a polarization in Thai society that shows no signs of abating. The enmity is rooted in a debate over how much democracy Thailand should have, and threatens to trigger further violence in a nation that promotes itself as the land of smiles.
It gets harder and harder to see any way out or reasonable way forward for Thailand. Both sides have lost sight of reason in their absolute determination to thwart the other. 3 years of conflict, 2 sets of protesters, all these can be boiled down to one man, Thaksin Shinawatra.
Not all the Reds love this brand fairly.
We set up the rally to pressure the government to dissolve the parliament, because we think this government comes from a non-democratic way.
But more for the Reds means less for the Yellows.
When more resources are allocated to the rural and the poor, less are left for the army, the middle class and the monarch. For a country that made its transition from a military dictatorship to a democracy only years ago, this is a hard reality for the vested interest yellow groups.
The Yellow Shirts took revenge in September 2006. It was royalist generals who led the coup. They were cheered on by conservative judges and bureaucrats, wealthy business tycoons, and many urban middle-class Thais. Thaksin's followers felt robbed. And their anger increased last year when the governments they had voted for were harried by the People's Alliance for Democracy and then disqualified by bizarre court decisions. Adding insult to injury were PAD activists saying the poor only voted for Thaksin because he'd bribed them. These grievances are ripping Thai society apart. After the 2006 coup, the military rewrote the constitution to favor non-elected institutions. The new law made it easier for judges to dissolve political parties. The PAD further advocated a new politics plan. It called for 70% of parliamentary seats to be appointed, while the remaining 30% would be open for elections.
他试图想改变泰国长期以来
With the rapid economic development over the past 20 years, there are whole new classes of people who are now starting to agitate for their share of power. In the Thai political system comprised of the king, the army and the government, Thaksin is the person who answered their interests. So in the recent unrest, the protesters are against the establishment, not just Abbasid.
With the protesters packing up and going home, some say the Reds have lost. But to the observers, there's no winner.
Nobody wins. Over the past few days, the red shirt's peaceful image was tarnished. The government's credibility has been ruined. The police didn't function, and the army proved it's not neutral. Abbasid's promise of reconciliation proved hollow, and Thaksin's call for an uprising fell flat.
For now, the streets of Bangkok remain calm. Protesters' tents are waiting to be dismantled. The military presence is being reduced. But Professor Zhang says the fight is far from over.
Thailand is undergoing a painful period of transition. It's evolved from a military dictatorship to a constitutional monarchy. Once democracy is established, it's impossible to go back. As painful as it seems, Thais have to continue the way they started.
The conflict may end in two ways. Fight on until both parties are tired, or a third party, like the king, steps in. Either way requires compromise and reconciliation. Thailand has seen 4 prime ministers in the last 12 months, and no one can say how many more there will be before true peace arrives.
Well, whether Abhisit Jajiwa stays or goes, the result is likely to be the same. More street demonstrations and more political turmoil. Another certainty is that Thailand will slip further behind as a major tourist destination. The conflict is steadily eroding the confidence of investors, tourists and the Thai people for a stable future for their country. Coming up next, civilians with guns, defense or danger? We ask that question right after this.